Just take your toolbox and go. That is what my wife said the day she handed me the divorce papers. She said it with a smile. Marcus, the man she'd been seeing for 8 months, was sitting right next to her on the window bench, looking around the room like he was already measuring for curtains. My name is Daniel. I am a carpenter. At least, that is what Diane always told people when she had to mention me at all. This is the story of how one sentence became the most expensive thing she ever said. Pull up a chair. It is worth hearing. The house had belonged to Diane's parents, structurally solid, but untouched since the early 2000s. Vinyl flooring bubbling at the edges. A kitchen that still had the original laminate countertops in a shade I can only describe as dusty mustard. When her parents moved to assisted living 3 years ago, the house passed to Diane. When we married 6 months later, I saw what it could become. I want to be clear about something. I didn't do it to impress anyone. I did it because I build things. It is what I know how to do. Over 3 years, I replaced every floor, laid hardwood in the living room and kitchen, tile in the bathrooms, all sourced, purchased, and installed by me. I rewired the lighting throughout the house, swapping out the builder-grade fixtures for pieces I'd hunted down at salvage yards and refinished myself. I built the kitchen cabinets from scratch, designed them, cut the wood, assembled every drawer and door by hand, designed the shelving in the study to fit the exact dimensions of the alcove, sourced the bathroom vanities from a supplier 2 states, over because the local options weren't worth the wall space, replaced every appliance in the kitchen, refrigerator, range, hood, because the originals were older than I was, negotiated directly with contractor son, the jobs I couldn't do alone, because I knew which questions to ask and which answers meant someone was padding the quote. Every single purchase had a receipt. That wasn't distrust. That was just habit. When you work in trades long enough, you learn that memory is unreliable and paper isn't. I kept a folder for each room, tabbed, labeled, dated. 3 years of documentation stored in a file box in my workshop, which Diane had never once opened. I drove to the signing in my truck. It is a 2009 Ford F-150 with rust along the wheel wells and a dent in the passenger door I've been meaning to fix for 2 years. I wore my usual flannel, the faded blue one, and I hadn't quite gotten all the stain off my left hand from a lacquer job the day before. Marcus looked me over when I walked in. Just once, that was enough for him. The papers were already on the coffee table. Diane had her lawyer draw them up. The terms were simple, no division of property. She'd pushed for that clause 6 months into our marriage, during a period when things were already going wrong, and I'd agreed without argument. At the time, I think she assumed it protected her. The house was hers by inheritance. She figured that was the asset worth protecting. She wasn't wrong about that. She was just wrong about everything else. I read through the papers slowly. Marcus shifted in his seat. Diane watched me with that particular expression she'd developed over the past year. The one that was trying to look patient, but was actually just waiting for me to finish being an inconvenience. The house stays with me, obviously, she said. You just take your tools and your clothes, whatever personal stuff you have. I looked up at her. Then I looked at Marcus, who was running his hand along the armrest of the window bench. The one I'd built 18 months ago, white oak, mortise, and tenon joints. fitted flush against the bay window I'd reframed. "Sure," I said. I picked up the pen, signed where they indicated, set the pen down. Then I stood up, pulled on my jacket, and picked up my keys. Diane's shoulders dropped about half an inch. Not much, but I noticed. She thought that was it. She thought the man in the faded flannel had just done what men like him do, taken the path of least resistance, signed the papers, and accepted the loss. Marcus leaned back against the wall behind him, relaxed, like the hard part was over. I didn't correct either of them. At the door, I stopped, turned back. "I'll have movers here tomorrow morning," I said. 8 o'clock. "I'll take everything that belongs to me, just like the papers say. No division of property." She looked relieved. She thought those words were working in her favor. I let her think that I called Ray that night. Ray runs the best moving crew in Indianapolis. We've worked together for years. I've done custom work in half the houses he has moved people into, and he has helped me transport materials on jobs too big for Thetra. "Tomorrow morning," I said. 8 o'clock. 2 trucks, 6 guys. I'll send you the inventory list tonight." "Big job?" he asked. "Everything in the house," I said. "Every piece of furniture, every fixture I installed, every appliance I purchased. The list is detailed." A pause. "You okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just get some sleep." I sent the list at 10. Then I went to bed. Diane and Marcus were still upstairs when the trucks pulled up at 8 the next morning. By the time they came down, Marcus in a borrowed robe, Diane in yesterday's clothes. Ray's crew had already removed the living room shelving unit I built from reclaimed oak. "What is this?" Diane stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I handed her the folder. Tabs organized by room, every receipt, every invoice, every supplier confirmation. 3 years of documentation, 2 inches thick. Every item in that folder was purchased with my money after we married. I said, "All of it is mine." You agreed. She flipped through the first few pages. Her hand slowed. "The floors," she said, "purchased and installed by me. The cabinets, built by me. Materials receipts are in the kitchen tab." "You can't take the cabinets," Marcus said. He'd found his footing now, trying to sound authoritative. "They're attached to the house. The cabinet doors and hardware aren't structural," I said. "I'll leave the frames." Ray's crew worked quietly and efficiently. They'd done complicated jobs before. This was just inventory management. By 10, the living room held nothing but bare walls and the marks where the shelving had been. By noon, the kitchen cabinets had been reduced to their frames. Doors, hinges, handles, all carefully packaged. By 2 in the afternoon, the bathroom vanities were loaded. The hardwood floor sections in the hallway that could be cleanly separated from the subfloor. Diane stopped arguing around 11. She sat down on the floor of the empty dining room. The chairs were already on the truck, and watched. Marcus made 2 phone calls and then went and sat in his car. At 3:30, Ray found me in the study. "Last of it," he said. "You want to do a walkthrough." I walked through the house once. The rooms looked the way they had when Diane's parents had lived there, before I'd touched anything. Smaller, older. The original vinyl flooring was still underneath the hallway, exposed now at the edges where my hardwood ended. The wall shad, the faint outlines of where fixtures had hung. It looked like what it was. A house that had been emptied of everything someone else had built. I found Diane in the kitchen. She was standing at the counter. The bare laminate one, the dusty mustard one, which I'd left because it wasn't mine, staring at the window where the custom frame I'd made used to be. She didn't say anything, neither did I. There wasn't much left to say. I walked back outside. The lacquer stain was still on my left hand, same as it had been when I walked in that morning, same as it always was. This time, nobody in that house was looking at it like it meant something small. 2 weeks later, she texted. Marcus had left after a few days. She said the house felt wrong. She said she hadn't realized. She said a lot of things. I waited 3 days before I responded. Then I suggested coffee, a place near my workshop, nothing special. She was already there when I arrived. That surprised me. I sat down, ordered, and let her talk. She said she was sorry. She said she'd underestimated me. She said she thought she knew what our marriage was, what I was, and she'd been wrong. When she finished, I set my cup down. You saw the truck, I said, the flannel shirt, the paint on my hands. You decided that told you everything you needed to know about what I was capable of. I paused. What a person builds and what they look like building it. Those aren't the same thing. You never figured that out. She started to respond. I shook my head, not unkindly. I hope you find what you are looking for, I said. But I can't help you with that anymore. I left the exact change on the table and walked out. Ray was parked out front when I came out. He'd been waiting. He rolled down his window. How'd it go? I said. That duplex on the north side next week, you in? Yeah, I said. I am in. I got in the truck. The engine turned over on the second try. So Mame as always. Some things you build to last. Some things you build to last. Some things you build and then you let them go. The trick is knowing which is which before you start. I already had the plans drawn up for the next one. That is the end of today's story. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. A new story drops every week, right here on Blood Never Lies. See you in the next one.